Hello, Facebook friends.
Hi, how are you?
We are live here and we are talking about financial aid today, something
We
that's
are.
very important right now,
Certainly
this
is.
time of year.
It's on everybody's minds if you have a senior in high school.
Yeah, so it's not too late if you have a senior in high school and you're floundering around a little bit with the FAFSA. It's not too late to get help, right, Tom?
That's true. We can step in and we can help you with that, or any part of the application process for that matter. If you think you're not going to get it done, if you're having trouble, give us a shout. Let's see what we can do to help out.
Definitely reach out. It can make a huge difference in the amount of financial aid that your student receives next year. So definitely reach out if you have any questions. But today we are talking about something that's not always that intuitive, and that is what makes a dependent student.
Right.
So the Department of Education has some very specific guidelines on what makes a student dependent and independent,
right.
Correct?
That's exactly right. I mean, I get this question all the time. Parents think because their child turned 21 that they're independent because they have reached the age of majority, or they said, well, we've told our son or daughter that we're not paying for college, it's on them. Well, the fact of the matter is that if by putting your child in that position and not supporting them with your financial numbers when it comes to filing for financial aid, they're not going to qualify because there are very specific rules that make a student considered to be independent, which means they don't need mom and dad's numbers.
So it's not that simple.
It's not that simple, right? So what are some of those things that make a student independent? Well, one, are you married? Obviously, if you're married, then you're going to be considered independent. Do you have children that you're providing more than half of the support for, financial support for? Then you're independent. Do you have other dependents other than children that you're providing financial support for, more than half of their financial support? You're considered independent.
What about if you're serving in the armed forces?
If you are serving in the armed forces, you're considered independent. If you're a veteran, you're considered independent. If you are a professional student, or getting your master's degree, then you're considered, or PhD, you're considered independent. And then we get involved in some of the things like, are you a ward of the court because both mom and dad are incarcerated or they're both deceased? And one of the loopholes that some people discovered, they probably saw the headlines from out of Chicago, some families turning their custody of their child over to relatives and putting them in guardianship. So if a child is in a legal guardianship, they are considered independent for financial aid purposes.
So that's one loophole. But I think the bottom line is, it's not that simple. There are some very specific circumstances surrounding it.
Right.
So,
yeah. So that's independence. And there's some things about being homeless and that sort of thing as well. But the message is you can't just decide that your child is independent for financial aid purposes. There are rules established by the government. A couple other things too that are a little confusing is in a divorce or separated situation, it's not the parent who claims the child on their tax return. It's not their numbers that go on the FAFSA. It's based on domicile. Who did that child live with for the majority of the previous 12 months prior to filing for financial aid? That determines the parents who provide their financial numbers.
And what about step parents?
Well, if you're the domicile parent and you get remarried, then your spouse as a step parent is now required to provide their financial information as well.
Even if they're remarried for less than a year?
True. Doesn't matter. There's no ifs, ands, or buts to it. If you're a step parent, you're financially responsible as well in the eyes of the government for financial aid.
But if you have any specific questions to your personal situation, I would encourage you to give Optimum Ed a call and just kind of make sure of what the ins and outs are, because it can get a little complicated.
And do it early on, earlier on. Don't wait till you're filling out the form, because this is a conversation. And when I say earlier on, it'd be great if we could have that conversation a couple years ahead of time, because then you understand how the formula works and what's being assessed and all that, and you might be able to put yourself in a little better position for filing.
Or, Tom, in some situations, you know, they families have a change of some sort when
Right.
they're going through this process and filing. There could be a change in the family situation, and so that is going to impact your
Sure.
FAFSA as well.
Exactly. So, for example, we're right now using 2018 tax returns for income information on the FAFSAs we're filing. You know, that's the financial situation of the family could be drastically different today as it was in 2018. So once the FAFSA's been filed, if there is something drastically different in your financial circumstance, you need to be reaching out to the financial aid office of the school that you're been accepted to and talk to them about it. There's an appeal process where they can, you know, if you can document what you're talking about, they can go in, professional judgment, and adjust those financial numbers to take into account the change in your financial situation.
So all of that is, you know, basically to say, if you have any questions, give Optimum Ed a call.
Right.
And there are, you know, a lot of rules, a lot of
That's-
regulations.
that's
It's
true.
not so simple, right? But
Look
we're
forward to
here
hearing from you. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.